Yo, 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 yo. Thanks for checking out the channel. Anime Interns on the Intern Hub YouTube channel. Check this out. Check this out. Get right into it. So we're gonna do a review on chapter 1186. I'm gonna do some early thoughts. Me and Lee are gonna do a video today. Probably get it out either tonight or even tomorrow. We're just gonna keep rolling into this thing. We're not gonna overthink it. We're not gonna over strategize. We're gonna get the content out to you guys, and it's going to be effing phenomenal. So, early thoughts. I got a few notes. So, grow. I'm gonna call it grow. The Holy Night. Very interesting. I think this kind of pretty much sums up a timeline, if you will, of kind of like this flashback. So it seems like Candel's a part of the army, and the Celestial Dragons and their Holy Knights or whatever. I'm assuming Grow, obviously Grow, pulls up, and for whatever reason, they pull up to this island. I guess maybe they were enthralled by the music, maybe they wanted some performances, maybe again, whatever. They pull up, it causes a lot of stress on the people. Candele seems like she was used to please these God Knights and their commanders, and then they leave. And for whatever reason, I'm assuming through maybe like a connection to Emu or whatever, or maybe even a spy on the island. Someone confirms essentially that Gunko has these eyes, or the special eyes that have this ability to do more and have an awakening, just like I guess we see out of Mihawk as well. So they come back for the eyes in some degree. Maybe they try to come back privately, whatever the case may be. Well, before we even get to that, I should say, then Candele, after the Celestial Dragons and the team and their commanders leave, then she gets sick, which I would assume she actually got pregnant. It took a, like the story says, it took a physical toll on her. I'm assuming that's when she got pregnant. I'm assuming also too that the prince, who is now king, Ruben, I'm assuming that she was either in love with him, maybe he always was secretly in love with her, or maybe they just bonded through this trauma, and for whatever reason, when he becomes king, she becomes his wife. She steps down, assuming she can no longer fight, probably because of pregnancy or whatever. And again, now she becomes queen. So you have Shuri slash Gunko with these special powers. I just think that, to me, this is something that I predicted, and I have it in my last video, what I did with Lee. Um, I just kind of figured that this was going to be a little bit of like Kuma all over, the Kuma backstory all over again. Celestial Dragon essentially saw the woman, the father who's not the father steps up to be the father, raises her, yada yada yada. And in Oda fashion, he kills the mother off. So it doesn't seem like Candele was anything important to the Celestial Dragons and that entity. I don't think she was of royal blood, so to speak. So we kind of, essentially, she's not an op. She was never an op. Unfortunately, even worse, she was a casualty of this story that has a repetitive nature of women get sexually assaulted, then get thrown off screen because apparently mothers and women in this story are not relevant unless they are Nami or Boa. I don't know, whatever. So there you go. So there's the flashback on that. A couple things other in my notes really quickly. Like I said, it's not gonna be a long video. Um, we talked about in the last video also like desire and emotion of Emu's power. Like I always centered all these god powers centered. I have these god powers centered around desire and emotion. For example, Emu's power. He talks about how he needs to coerce people in a way. He needs to pull on their desires. He leans into their emotion and their energy, things like that, and that's how he forms a contract with them and give them power in return. But what he gets, I guess, is their soul, for example. So he leans into that desire, even if it's something that like man-made, an event that causes this despair, whatever the case may be, or this thirst for power, this thirst for knowledge, whatever it may be. Again, I think that's how his power works. Just like when we talked about previously in the last video about the forest gods and devil fruits and how devil fruits come about. They've been willed into existence. The sun god was willed into the existence. So just things like that. I think a lot of this. I think One Piece, when you look at the 30,000 foot view, is going to be centered around music, sound, and true heart's desire. And you can always say will too as well, but I would say that's the same family as desire. So I just think it was interesting that, and the reason why I bring that up is because Gunko slash Shuri, whatever you want to call her, Gunko, um, she seems to have. I want to assume that Ruben, her father or her play dad, was Domi Reversi, right? And she comes in second, um, which kind of interesting because I'm like, was he as strong as a Holy Knight? Question mark. We'll kind of get into that with Lee. But essentially, he gets Domi Reversi, what it seems like. Gonko comes in second, or maybe she watches him get Domi Reversi. And I think that somehow Emu coerces her into, hey, if you don't want me to use this guy to go out there and go slaughter all these people, like you need to accept this power. You need to accept yourself as my vessel. And not only will I give you knowledge and the truth, but you will also have the power to essentially slay your father. And I think that she took it. I think when she took it, she was flooded with new information that caused us unstableness in her emotions, and now she's talking to Brooke as if like she's almost like in her right mind. You know, it's not Emu talking through her. I think it's because she's just overwhelmed with emotions. And so, like, the emotion that is being brought out the most is like anger, frustration, when I don't think that's truly how she feels. I think that that is like a part of like, wait, what you telling me? Wait, what you telling me? This is my dad, and wait, what? Like you're not my dad. He's my dad. You killed my dad. I think all of those just overwhelming things. Like I think what took over is the anger, so that she was having that conversation with Brooke, essentially so calmly. I think it's also interesting that Groa, the Holy Knight, said that he wasn't able to awaken his eye. You know, that's a question mark of like why. Why was he not able to do the awakening? What makes and they're not even really sure that Gungo could do it. You know what I'm saying? Whatever that awakening looks like. So it's very interesting there. I guess to a certain degree. Also, too, we confirmed that that's Emu. I think a lot of the streets were saying that that could have been Marcus Mars, the war god of environment, but it seems like that was Emu that was in the room with them. Kind of funny to me when Emo kind of looked to the side after all this crap was going on. And he was like, "Hello, let me close the door. Like, I don't need nobody seeing this." So it's like just little weird stuff like that. I was just like, Emo's such a weird person to me. Um, let's see. I think that's pretty much um yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me. Um, I do wonder though, and I guess this is just me being petty and kind of listening to the streets, but I'm like, I wonder. Nah, let me not say it. I was gonna say if Kendall actually was in love with Ruben, or was she in love with the with the Holy Knight, but I'm not gonna do that. She was definitely in love with Ruben. I think we're safe to say that. Um, but yeah, I think that's my quick hitters. I want to make this video under 10 minutes, but yeah, that's my quick hits on the chapter. Again, I'm gonna get with Lee. We're gonna divulge. We're gonna ADHD our way through probably like an hour long content. So get ready for that video. But thank you guys. This is the recap to chapter 1186 on the Intern Hub, specifically this channel in the Anime Intern. So please check us out. Love you. Subscribe. Have a good one. Peace.